Hey guys, Space Guru 5 here. I know I've mentioned this several times before, but a dose of Buckley is someone who influenced my style of commentary. I think his unique blend of rant, comedy, and social commentary is something that this world really needed, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I've been actively watching his content for about 10 years now. So as you can imagine, when I saw a video titled "A Dose of Buckley Doesn't Understand Trigger Warnings," I had to take a look for myself. It's not worth it to go through all 44.5 minutes of this, as I feel like the central point of this video is just that flimsy, but I'll save that for when I get to my interjection. So without further ado, let's take a look.
Let's go ahead and get into the last thing I want to talk about tonight. A Dose of Buckley. I am not very familiar with this creator, though apparently there's a lot of people who really like him. As per usual, I don't want to talk shit about the creator. I want to talk about the ideas presented in the video that we're going to be going over. So the video in hand we're going to talk about, now that we're done with all that, is about trigger warnings in video games.
Video games have advanced in so many ways over the years. Not just in terms of graphical or technical capabilities, but in the stories they tell and the themes that they're willing to tackle. With Pac-Man, you were a big yellow dot eating smaller dots, and occasionally a cherry or pretzel, while being chased by ghosts in a maze. There's no more to it than that. Any story behind this, you had to create in your head, like perhaps Pac-Man has been sent to hell for his sin of gluttony, forced to run and feed through never-ending mazes, never allowed to stop or escape, and the ghosts are demons who torture him by painfully discorporating his soul if they catch him, at which point he lets out his anguished scream.
I mean, that's at least a really good imagination.
There, now Pac-Man's more interesting, right? But at what cost? A man punished for his eating disorder? Hell? Demons? Torture? Well, now this needs a trigger warning, right?
Is it 2016 again? Are we back here? Are we... Really?
Recently, a game called Boyfriend Dungeon came out. An action RPG dungeon crawler dating sim where you form relationships with men or women who are actually weapons. It's an obviously absurd, over-the-top premise that couldn't possibly upset anyone, as generally speaking, no one has ever dated a boy who turned into a sword.
Okay, but people have dated other people. Like, you are aware metaphors are a thing, right?
Apparently, a bunch of people complained to the developer that they were triggered by things in the game. And
okay, so I'm just gonna say this right now. Triggering is literally a medical term. Like, I know that I've used it flippantly in the past, and I probably will still use it flippantly in the future. But at the end of the day, like, when you get triggered for something, that is actually like a medical thing that's happening. Like, an anxiety attack is getting triggered, or a panic attack is getting triggered, or a breakdown is getting triggered. Like, that's a thing that is happening in reality. But I guess we'll just continue to make fun of that thing.
Hey, so I know I made fun of this very real thing, and I probably will continue to do so, but you shouldn't do it, and here's why.
That's what I just fucking heard. Hell, you even used it flippantly in your thumbnail to mock what you thought Buckley's reaction to trigger warnings was. Now, here's the thing. Yes, triggers are a real thing, but Buckley here isn't actually making fun of triggers, not at all. He's making fun of people who completely fabricate things to be triggered by, especially where such things shouldn't reasonably exist. Hell, you lean into that yourself with your metaphors are a thing interjection. You don't have to agree with what he's saying, but the very least you could do is not misrepresent what he's saying. If this was a serious game meant to cover serious subject matter and Buckley was making fun of people decrying the lack of trigger warnings, that'd be one thing. But in this case, it's a fucking RPG dating sim with a ridiculous premise. I'm pretty sure triggering people was the last thing on the dev's mind. It's as I've said many times before, context is key. I also noted your admission of not being familiar with Buckley's content. Now sure, you don't really have to be familiar with his work in order to understand what he's actually trying to say. That was one of the things that drew me to his work in the first place. However, if you actually looked at his back catalog of videos, you would understand that mocking people who put Tempest in their teapots is nothing new to him, and that he's applied that to many situations. There was that time he made fun of people who misread a Matilda mug and thought it was promoting domestic violence. There was that time he made fun of people who called Bill Burr a racist simply because he failed to pronounce a name correctly during the Grammys. There was that time he made fun of people who complained about generic Halloween shit at Knott's Berry Farm. And he hasn't just gone after the left for this shit either. He's also made fun of the right for getting upset when they thought Mr. Potato Head would be non-binary, when really it was just the brand name that was changing and not the character himself. He's made fun of people who interpreted Garth Brooks' Sanders football jersey as an endorsement of Bernie Sanders for the 2020 election. He's even made fun of people who legitimately believed that a Super Bowl halftime show signaled the coming of the Antichrist or some shit.
But he's making fun of trigger warnings!
Whatever floats your boat, I guess.